Hello, hello,
Yeah,
hello,
cool.
hello.
Um, what did you learn, or what did you take away? Thank you, sir. Um, from the first record in making this record. I mean, had you guys been done much studio stuff before? I mean, did you learn anything? Did you not learn anything? I mean,
We jumped in and out of studios. I think the funner studios that we locked in and locked out in were the most unorganized studios. The ones where you kind of, tape all the things together and you have to get it in like two takes or else
right,
because
the
the
board goes.
electricity might short out. Um, the first record was done in a pretty stale environment as far as the studio and the rooms having character. It was like every room was shaped for perfect sound, and
Right.
to get perfect sound, sometimes you steal the character off the wall. And
Right.
the place we made this record was in New Orleans, and it was a place called Kingsway Studios.
Right. I've never heard of that place.
It's right in the middle of the French Quarter, which doesn't exactly do the metabolism any good.
can
But
understand
but
that.
as far as it was like a time warp there because they have all the carriages and the horses and all. So when you wake up at 8 in the morning because a horse is clapping across the window seal, it's kind of, you feel like, wow, where am I at?
It's cool.
It's the headless horseman coming to get me.
Exactly. The old slave traders, right?
Yeah, it's crazy down there. New
Yeah.
Orleans is
You guys originally from there?
no, our drummer lives there. Rogers and Brad just moved from there. They moved back up to Seattle, and yeah, Glenn's, like I said, he's still there. I think, and I moved back to Indiana where I was born.
That you were born?
Yeah, I and my girlfriend are getting ready to have a baby, so I moved back to it.
Cool.
It's just it's safe there.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm away, I definitely want to make sure that the baby and Lisa are in a safe environment. And Indiana's flat,
Yeah.
but it's safe.
Where in Indiana?
Lafayette, right around Purdue University is in our city. And
It's still a pretty big city. I mean, it's nothing like LA, but it's still a pretty
no,
big
yeah, yeah, and I mean it's there's no problem with traffic there.
city.
You never realize how I took that for granted when I lived there.
Yeah, yeah. So musically, I mean, is Indiana like a big part of what you guys do? I mean, can you
I
take?
think we all kind of come from a similar background. We didn't all come from the same place, but I think the air that surrounded the environments that we were raised in was relatively the same. I think that we're trying to draw. I mean, I draw a lot of what I think about from, point A to point B. It's like, well, you can't forget where you're from, and you can't sweep it under the rug because it's what made you where and take it helped move the car to where you're at today. So it's like being there after being away for about 10 years is kind of a trip. I can find a newfound newfound enthusiasm about it, and when you're outside the fire looking in, it's a little bit easier to keep from getting burned.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I can appreciate it now.
Yeah, that's true. So this studio is a 24-track studio.
Yeah, the one in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love the sound of your.
Well, I don't know,
records.
because a lot of times I was cross-eyed when I was looking at the board, so it was about a 48 track.
Or a 12-track. It looked like 20.
Yeah, depending on what type of night it was.
So I mean, do you guys then really for you? It's not like it doesn't have to be the huge board and all the new stuff and.
Yeah.
I mean, because your records have like, I mean, I love how they're produced. I mean, they're really simple production, but they have like a big sound. The guitars sound great, and the vocals sound cool.
Sometimes a lot of it is too anal. I don't.
You mean your stuff or stuff in general?
Just stuff in general. Too polished. And I mean, there's a way to make a good record without a lot of the money that's spent. I mean, it makes me sick to see how much money gets spent on a lot of things, videos and records and things like that. And I don't know. It's a bad thing to get caught up in. When you look at how good a video you're going to make by looking at how much money you're going to spend on it.
Sucks.
You can shit on $100 bill and it's and I still don't want it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, what typically is a Blind Melon session like? I mean, is it pretty much live? I mean, it's like the two
The
guitar.
guys usually do all the, like, they'll run through the song live. Everybody has their amps out in another room.
Mm-hmm.
But you get that invisible sound when you're all playing. You know, you get an invisible sound when you're all playing together, and when you gel, then it'll be captured on tape. And the thing is that you can't manipulate that. You can manipulate or EQ a guitar or the drum sound
Right.
but the vibe is
Right,
something
the
that
performance,
the
exactly.
performance and the mental telepathy is something that an EQ has nothing to do with.
Right, right.
You know, so when you capture that on tape, it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think on this record we definitely got a lot of that, more so than we did on the last record. You know, yeah. I mean, I think that we are still a very young green band, but I think that we're getting, we're moving along. You know, we're not trying to keep up with the people who are pushing. You know, we're moving at our own pace, and to do that, it makes it a lot more. It's nice to get, mad about things that are worth getting mad about, rather than wasting your energy trying to control, your image or your whatever that is so irrelevant to what you make music for.
Right.
So I mean, it basically just comes down to what makes you smile and what makes you happy, like we were talking about before. I don't like coming up here, and I don't like things that are so set up and organized that they're stale. And that's exactly what they're doing to us today. So you're getting the most minute bit of enthusiasm that I walked into this building with.
No, I can understand that. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and you say, well, back then it was better, but it was different. I think maybe the reason I do like what you guys do, and I'll be honest, I don't tend to like a lot of whatever you want to call it, what newer bands are doing. Most of it, it's hard to listen to. One, because I don't think there's a lot of songs there. My first thing is, is there a song there? Is there a melody going on? Is the lyric saying something? Then beyond that, it's the playing and the performance. But you seem to have this attitude like the machinery isn't important to you, like years ago, like it wasn't. Like you just go in and you'd make a record, and the record company would do flips over the band, and it was real,
And it's a lot of overkill these days. I mean, they underestimate the intelligence of people in society, and a lot of brainwashing tactics, and a lot of, the overkilling is what happened to, I felt like us, they took the song No Rain and they choked everybody to death with it so much that no one really wanted to listen to any of the other songs, and they didn't give them a chance. And to me, that really raped the soul of a lot of the other things that we wrote. That song doesn't mean more to me than the next song. So to have people, go, wow, those are nice shoes you're wearing, and I'm sitting here going, wow, you know what? These are my favorite jeans.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's like give a little bit of equal opportunity to everything, rather than trying to shove one thing down people's throat. And I think sometimes the society and the public in general, they just give into it because they're so sick of changing the fucking radio station. So they're just like, oh fuck, this will get me from this stoplight to that stoplight, and I think that if a lot of I'm not the anti-corporate dude, I hate our label. I'm not that. I'm just thinking that there's a better way to go about it. There's such a wall that's being built, but no one can explain what every brick means in that wall. And I think that if everybody could maybe try to understand, the wall wouldn't be there. If the guy on the 10th floor, when he starts thinking he's better than the guy on the second floor, well, then there's something wrong there, because if that guy on the second floor sets his floor on fire, that guy on the 10th floor is fucked. So that no one,
Yeah. Well, that's why, again, going back to the record, I think I was drawn to it because, the songs were really cool. I mean, it seems like you guys take a lot of time in the songwriting,
Thanks.
and the guitars are working out very cool parts, and you can sort of hear where some of the influences lie, but it's certainly uniquely your own, and to my mind, it's like the Great White Hope. I mean, it's like it borrows from things that the school I kind of came from, and it's new, and production-wise, it has value, And,
Thank you.
So I mean, I think that's cool.
I think one thing that is a good thing that we have. I mean, because a lot of times we do interviews separately because everybody has a different point of view, and then sometimes maybe an interview will turn into a like a political debate. So it's easier to do it one by one. But the common denominator is that everybody wants to write a good song, and there's not one songwriter in this band. Everybody knows how to write and construct a song, and one guy knows how to put the right amount of pepper. One guy knows how to put the right amount of So it's like it's a collective, it's a collective thing. And I think that by having that, the longevity of creating is always going to be there. That's why we all live in different places, because we don't have to hang out with each other every day. And
Hi.
What are you guys doing in here? It's locked.
Really?
She lied to me. She said she was going to go get a beer, but she's...
I'm sorry, I'm empty-handed. I
Yeah.
didn't find one yet.
Yeah.
You're excused.
All right. Anyway.
Good game.
All right. Good game.
Good game, bro. All right.
Good
Cool.
hit, man.
All right, buddy.
Hey, it's nice talking to you.
Thanks.
I'm going down to the second floor.
Be mellow.
I'm just kidding.
Don't set any fires.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. I mean, I was talking to Shannon, about the production of the record. I mean, do the guitar players tend to sit and work out parts? Because, it sounds like things are, I don't want to say orchestrated, but, it's not just both guys out there chugging on 8 notes, there's
Right.
I'm just wondering how that gets worked out, were you a fan of, like, 2 guitar bands? And just because I don't
somewhat.
think you couldn't do what you're doing with one guitar player. I think
No,
it'd be a
right.
tough thing to pull off.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird, we don't really go into depth as far as discussing it. We just kind of, if Rogers writes a song, I'll come in and play my own part over the song that he just wrote, and vice versa. If I write a song, he'll do the same thing. So we don't sit down together and go, okay, when you do that, I'll do this. It's just kind of like, either I'll say, here's a song, and we'll write it together, and it's just, it just kind of evolves into, into something that's, a little more textured than just both of us playing the same notes. It's just how we've always done it that way. We've never really discussed it like, oh, we should definitely not play the same parts. It was never like that. It was like, well, we're both creative people, and that's just how we write songs.
Right.
So I think it makes it a hell of a lot more interesting for us as musicians to not have to play exactly what we're playing. We can do our own thing and feel like we've contributed to the song. So it works out.
So how would you describe the 2 styles?
I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't sit down and think about it. I don't know. I think that I wouldn't. I think I would have someone else describe our styles. I don't know what we do. I don't know what we do. We don't. We don't have some big vision as to this is what we're trying to do. It's just this is how we do it.
Really?
Just yeah.
Because solos are interesting. Because really, they're other than 1 or 2, there aren't like any just like straight guitar solos on that.
Yeah.
They'll come to a part and they'll be your whatever you want to call it, your orchestrated section, but the guitars will exchange parts. There'll be some strings. It's really.
We got away from. I think on the first record there was more solos, and I can only speak for myself now, but I really wanted to get away from that. To me, it's like this band shouldn't be about being a rock god guitar solo player. It's about writing songs, and I think everyone's come to that conclusion. It's fun to play solos every once in a while. For me, though, I would prefer to just write songs and create the song. I'm not playing solos doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't doesn't give me an extra punch or anything like that. I'm happy just to like feel the groove and playing a part that's weaving in with Roger's guitar playing. So that's how it's working.
Yeah, that's cool. Can you just run down, just real kind of briefly, then what kind of guitars you are playing on the record?
I've tried so hard to get away from I have a mid-'70s Tele Custom. Has the humbucker in the rhythm section and the single coil in the bridge section. And I've had it for years. I bought it when I first moved to LA, and I've tried to get away from it, but many times it still seems to be the guitar that
Really?
the main guitar. Although I did use a Jerry Jones on the song Galaxy, which is sort of a Dan Electro copy guitar. And I love that. That's a new guitar that I just got turned on to that I really love. I've used that. I used that on Galaxy, a song called New Life, and another song I can't remember. I've been away from the record for a month now, so I've forgotten a lot of stuff. The other thing I bought was a 330, a Gibson 330, like 1960, 67. 330. I really like that. I like to play that more than I like the way it sounds on record. It's a little muddy, but I did use that. I used that for some feedback stuff at the end of 2x4, and has a really nice, the way it feeds back, you can control it because it's hollow, and you could it'll just whistle. It'll sound like you're making tea,
There's a very high guitar part, and I can't tell if it's like a slide part or if it's like a. Again, I've listened to the record a couple of times, so it's hard for me to describe exactly where this part is. It must be maybe towards the end of it, but it's a very high guitar sound. It almost sounds like it's not an out of tune guitar. But I mean, it's a wonderful texture. I'm just wondering, first off, is there any slide guitar on the record?
There's slide guitar. I played lap steel on Mouthful of Cavities.
But 2x4, there's no slide.
2x4. Let me think for a second. No. It's I'm playing a high part that's just going da 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 da.
I mean, but it sounds like it's almost like an octave beyond. Maybe there's, I don't know what, it's just maybe the way it's mixed, but it's very cool. It's like a Zeppelin kind of a text. Sometimes you can't tell if it's a guitar, a vocal, or a harmonic or something.
Yeah, is it following that rhythm thing? I play it up really, really high.
Oh, that's very cool.
And I play it like a different chording of it, and it's pretty low in the mix, but you can still
that's cool.
Still make it out.
And then somebody's using a wah-wah somewhere on that song.
Rogers is definitely the wah-wah king. So if there's any wah-wah on any song, it's always Rogers. From day one when we started the band and me and Roger started playing together, he had a wah from day one, and he was always so good at it that I thought I'm not going to bother playing a wah because he's taking care of it. So I always tried to pick up the slide guitar or do other things. That is one conscious thing that I have done, is gone, okay, he's really good at that, so I don't need to compete with that and try to do it with him, because he can cover the wah like nobody else to me. I've heard a lot of people play it, and he plays it with a really great feel. So yeah, Rogers is the wah-wah king.
Right. And what about the acoustic guitars?
I write a lot on the acoustic.
You do.
But I think Rogers tracked some stuff with the acoustic too. I think actually him and Brad might have tracked acoustics on Galaxy. Yeah. I mean, I prefer to actually play acoustic, but we're a rock and roll band, so I don't get to always play it.
Right.
And Shannon also plays acoustic on St. Andrew's Fall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. And Skin, there's some acoustic guitar?
There's acoustic.
And banjo.
Yeah, I played the banjo.
You played
on that.
banjo?
I faked my way through the banjo on that one.
That's cool. And in one of the songs, there's a mandolin?
Yeah, I played the mandolin on Walk.
Right, that's you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love all that stuff. I mean, to me, and again, I hate to pick bands, but I mean, a lot of the Rod Stewart and Faces stuff, and
it's classic stuff, isn't it?
It's perfect. I love that stuff. The way Ronnie Wood, who's not the world's greatest guitar player,
right?
But he was brilliant at building parts like that.
Yeah.
And I get sort of that same kind of feel, just the way that it's used. Because I mean, obviously, it's not a country band, or it's not a a classical Renaissance band.
Just the texture. Yeah, I think that's the one advantage that me and Rogers both have is, and I think maybe I take advantage of it. Maybe even more than Rogers, is the fact that there is two guitar players, and sometimes three if Shannon's playing acoustic on a song. I don't need to play electric guitar in every song. You know what I mean? It can be taken care of with one.
Right.
So that's what it allows me to go, you know what, let me try to fake my way through a banjo. Let me just pick it up and see what I can do, And the same with the mandolin and, keyboards or whatever, it's really nice to be able to not have to go, I'm a guitar player, I can only play guitar.
So you play keyboards as well?
I play a little piano. Glenn actually is a really good piano player, and he plays piano on a song called Car Seat.
And what about New Life? Is that a Hammond?
Yeah, Brad played the Hammond on that.
Cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, you guys don't really center too much around keyboards. I mean, they're mostly
No.
just textures.
I'm not a huge fan of a lot of keyboards at all, especially the Van Halen sort of 80s. I hate those sounds. I really like Fender Rhodes and older sounding, Wurlitzer and the organ's great, or just natural sounding piano is nice. I don't really like the '80s sort of keyboard sounds.
And what kind of amps do you use?
I used the one advantage to recording at Dan Lanois Studio is that he's a guitar player and he had tons of amps laying around.
Excuse me, this is the studio in New Orleans?
Yeah, exactly.
And who owned that?
Dan Lanois, the guy that produced all that U2 stuff, and
Oh, it's his studio.
yeah, it's his studio. He wasn't there, but it's his house and his studio. So there was a lot of goodies laying around from everything, from keyboards to amps and guitars, tons of guitars. But the one amp that I fell in love with there was this Gretsch amp. I don't know the model number. I just know it was a Gretsch. Had like two 12s in it. We used small amps.
You do?
Yeah, we don't use big four. I didn't use a 412 on anything.
Yeah, I kind of got that sense.
Yeah, it works well for us. And the other thing I bought a Princeton amp, which I really like, an old, an older one. I don't know what year it is, but it's an old tweed Princeton amp. And I have a Supra, which I love, and a couple Gibson amps I really like. But the Gretsch, man, the Gretsch came up a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that there's a song called Vernie? There's like a tremolo on the guitar.
Yeah.
Is that coming from the amp?
Yeah, that's
is that
coming
like
from my Princeton, as a matter of fact. The Princeton has a wonderful, thick, fat sort of vibro.
Yeah, those old Fender
Tremolo,
tremolos
yeah.
are cool.
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
I could actually fall into overusing that effect
Yeah.
because I love it. I love it so much. I could play every song in that, and it wouldn't bother me. Probably the rest of the band members would be like, "Hey, you've worn that out, Christopher. You gotta maybe think up something new." But I could use it. I could use it in every song.
Yeah, it's cool. So, are you in there with Rogers cutting guitars live? In other words, are you both going out there trying to...
Everybody, yeah, we all cut. With the exception of Shannon, the band cuts the song without vocals live. And there's not really there wasn't that much patching up to do. We kept a lot of stuff fairly loose. What's fun for me is, get the song cut, clean up some of the shit you can't deal with. And then what's fun for me is to just flavor it with a whole bunch of stuff. Like, that's what I really look forward to. It's it's nice to get the song out of the way, and then you start thinking, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I doubled that part, or added a slide, or whatever. So yeah, we cut everything live.
And that was a 24-track studio?
That was a 24-track. Actually, that's not true. Almost everything was cut live. A couple songs were cut like with maybe just Shannon, and St. Andrew's Fall was cut with Shannon and Glenn on drums. And
Really?
then we overdubbed everything. And there was one other song, some songs that make it to the record that we did.
Hi.
Some things. Hey,
We're all set. We're changing.
I'm done. Cut off.
Off duty.
I'll let Rogers fill in the spaces.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Nice talking to you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
How are you?
And
Tell me, he played everything. I asked him if he could describe the two styles, and he said not really. I mean, could you, in other words, if the song comes up, I mean, would it fit one or the other better in terms of well, maybe Rogers, you're going to play the solo, or in other words, stylistically.
Normally, I mean, if I'm writing music, then I'm playing the parts that I wrote, and he's, he'll play the solo or whatever. But I mean, we kind of cut back on guitar solos on our new album, and it doesn't really. I mean, I think it sounds better because neither one of us are like extraordinary lead guitar players. I don't really have a lot of interest in doing that. So, I mean, the way we play together is basically not to talk about it, and it's a huge headache. It's like trying to figure out something that works, and then there's like all this tension and weirdness, and then it gets done. But it can be a real pain in the ass sometimes. I play like the thicker, like heavier sounding guitar, and he plays the clean guitar.
So he's playing the telly.
Exactly.
And what kind of guitar are you playing?
What I use for most of the album is a Les Paul Jr.
Junior.
Yeah, which I'm way into that. I just like discovered I was playing Strats pretty exclusively, and then I found this. But I always had problems like trying to beef up the way they sounded to make them sound thicker.
Right.
It wasn't what I was wanting. And Les Paul was too muddy, so I the P90 pickups, I guess, is just some sort of weird compromise that works for me. It's real punchy in the low end.
Yeah, juniors are great.
Yeah.
A lot of guys used to use those. Very cool. So, was Andy Wallace? I mean, was he? How much did he help put together the sound of the band? In other words, would he make suggestions in terms of a guitar tone, or would you guys pretty much have that?
Andy was great. You know, he was a pleasure to work with because he wasn't a heavy hand, and you know, I went in and I had, you know, my sounds pretty much set. I knew, you know, what I was going for, but he was able to transfer it to tape, which I've never been able to do. You know, I have, you know, a Fender Deluxe and a Vibrolux, you know, old Tweed amps, and then
That's what you use mainly.
yeah, you know, pretty much the whole thing. And then I had some old Fender Pro Junior or something with a little 8-inch speaker that was completely blown out, and it just sounded amazing on tape. And he was really good at getting, you know, the way the amp sounded in the room. He did some weird phasing things or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that much about recording techniques. I just know that it came out sounding a lot thicker and fuller than the first record did.
So you think it is a better guitar sound than the first record?
I hate the way the guitar sound the first record.
Were those the Strats you were playing back then?
Yeah, and I think the problem was I was running like two heads, you know, at once, or two cabinets, and using like way too many mics and all that. And it seems to me that you get some sort of weird, like there's no like crackly gaps in the frequency, you know. It seems like that every spectrum is filled when you're running two amps like that, and you've got a blend. And with this, it's the character of that one amp, you know, with things wrong with it, so it works better.
Right, I know what you mean. I mean, to my mind, it's kind of a throwback to what earlier bands used to do before everybody got into the huge racks and, you know, the perfect guitar sounds, you know, and guys would just, you know, go through a Fender, go through a, you know, Fender and a Leslie, you know, and it was a character of the amp that you heard on tape.
I have a lot of, you know, gear like that, but then, you know, I just had this guy, Bob Bradshaw, build me the switching system for it all. So, you know, I have all these, you know, really, you know, clunker effects, you know, in a box. They're all in, you know, effects loops, and it's all high tech and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting compromise. Works pretty well.
Old stomp boxes with a high-tech switching system. Yeah. So what kinds of effects are you using?
I have a fuzz face, you know, one of the red disc things. I have tube screamer. I change them out a lot. I have lots of different phasers, you know, phase 90s, those sort of things. And then I have one of those pink delay pedals from Ibanez. I'm not sure, or it's analog delay, older thing. I'm not really sure what it is. I have an octave pedal, and my secret weapon is a K fuzz tone pedal. It's this weird orange thing that looks like it was made by Fisher Price. You know, I guess they sold them in the Sears catalog or something, but it sounds really incredible.
I think K was like a Sears product.
Yeah.
So that's because I mean I do hear that fuzz, you know, that kind of that's what that is, that K on the record.
Did you hear the new record?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's on several songs. The really like bumblebee buzzing thing that happens every now and then is that pedal.
Yeah, that's cool. So I mean a song. Let's take one for instance. Toes Across the Floor. I thought was very cool.
Right.
You know, guitar sounds. I mean, I thought, you know, were very interesting. Towards the end of the song, there's an effect on the guitar. Is that a harmonizer on there?
It's just I think that's one of those small stone phasers or something I had. You know, just kicked it on. It's you know, one of the things that you kick it on and the battery falls out or something. It's a total piece of shit.
So something like that. It's I'm just gonna try that here. Let's see.
Right, exactly. And then, you know, if it doesn't sound right for some weird reason, you can always go back and punch it out, you know. But we cut, you know, most of the record is cut, you know, musically is cut live. Like that. And then there's overdubs and things, but like all those, especially on that song, you know, all the guitars and stuff.
Right. So when you cut, you're cutting without effects on your guitars, and then you go back and put
I have pedals.
You do?
Yeah.
So the pedals go right to tape.
Exactly.
Which is different than what a lot of guys do, because if you have too much phase or delay or something, you can't, you can always add it without, I suppose, taking away. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you do it like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you know what you're gonna do before you do it, and you know what it sounds like, and you say this is what I'm gonna do, and the producer listens to it, and he says, okay, that'll work, and you do it. And it's,
So how much pre-production do you guys go through? I mean, do you pretty much know what's going on?
we didn't. Andy was working with somebody else, and he came the day before we started recording, and he just listened to all the songs. We had about 30 songs. He listened to them, and our whole thing is such a joke because when we do pre-production, whatever, everybody comes down. Everybody's staying in a hotel, and we're doing this in New Orleans, and I was renting a house in New Orleans, so we're rehearsing in the back, and we don't get anything done at all. I mean, it's just ridiculous, Such a waste of time and effort.
Interesting.
So we just, basically, we played him the songs. I mean, we had them pretty much finished. We rehearsed, 3 or 4 times, and the songs were. What we did is like I was writing songs, Brad was writing songs. We're all writing songs and sending tapes through the mail because I lived in New Orleans, Brad lived there, and Glenn lived there. And then Christopher was in Seattle, and Shannon was in Indiana, so we'd send tapes back and forth, and everybody had their ideas. We just got together and kind of played them a few times.
So the songs were never played live then?
Oh, no. I mean, well, a couple of them were actually. But the songs that are on, the album, I mean, that's like the 5th or 6th time we played the song that's on there.
So would you say that this is a giant step forward song-wise from the first record? I mean,
I think it is. I mean, that's just me. I can't be objective about it. It's for people like you to make those opinions, But